crew, Conrad coming at you with a classified ad review on this beautiful FUNCO G52. Why all the hearts? Well, we're almost at Valentine's Day and I can't think of a better gift than this car right here. But before we jump into the details, how about a little FUNCO history? And I don't mean the full FUNCO history, right? Just on the big fives, starting with generation 1 right here. Let's test Conrad's knowledge. FUNCO Motorsports has a pretty nice website. You're going to want to go over there and check this one out as well if you decide you want to order a brand new car, but I think you're going to want to pick up this G52. But let's test Conrad's knowledge. Let's take a look at this Gen 1 real quick and then we'll jump into the review. So what we've got here is a FUNCO Big 5 Gen 1, and you'll see something pretty unique on this car, and that's airbags. How did this car come about? The George family was granted a contract from the military in the 1990s, and they built a vehicle that was able to carry soldiers on it, as well as guns, equipment, and all of that stuff. So what they decided to do was add airbags to the suspension so they could adjust it for the weight, right? Nobody was really doing this in the sand car industry. Hell, even mini trucks and all of that stuff wasn't using airbags just yet. So again, the George family, being the innovators, threw airbags on the car, took it out, ran it, went through the whoop-de-doos, and went, holy crap, this works really well. Maybe we should build airbag suspension into a sand car. Thus, the Gen 1 was born. So folks gave him a hard time, the minivan, the bus, the whole 9 yards, but this car was certainly built to perform. This was going to be in the late 1990s, around 2000, when you started to see these ones hit the sand, and it was really I hate to say it, but it was a game changer for sand cars, right? That evolution goes all the way through the Gen 2, 3, 4, 5, 52, Gen 6, all of the ends, all of the FUNCOs, right? This is the beginning. So they've done this for the big fives for 30 years. And then prior to that, we're going to go all the way back to the 1960s, but we're not going to do that today because we need to get into this classified review and help TJ move his car. Okay, so enough FUNCO history. Let's jump in. All right, so this car is brought to you by Sandcar Buy-Sell crew member TJ Adams. It is a 2014 FUNCO G52. He is asking $239,000. That's right, $239,000. Where is the buy it now button? Right? Because first of all, here's some Conrad commentary. This is absolutely worth every single penny. This is an epic build, and you'll see as we go through why. Secondarily, FUNCO has about a 1 to 2 year waiting list for a brand new car. So if you're impatient like me and you want a turnkey car, turnkey FUNCO, especially G52, this is the one. All right, I'll stop geeking out about this one. Let's get to the list of things that are... Let's get to the list. And this isn't actually an exhaustive list of everything that's on the car. You'll have to log into our Facebook group, Sandcar Buy Sell Crew. You'll have a full list of everything on there because I just pulled some stuff out, right? So what do we have? Complete remodel with King Adam the Great Motorsports. No expenses were spared in the update and the car is better than new. It has a 440 cubic inch LS7 with a 4.0 liter Whipple supercharger. Yeah. Currently set at 12 PSI. Has an Albin's 5-speed sequential and it was just refreshed for peace of mind. Not because it was broken, he just had it gone through, right? Because the car was being rebuilt. Air ride with controller, multiple presets. We'll get into that a little bit later on when we're looking at the photos. We also have FUNCO billet beadlock wheels, which are absolutely beautiful. New jet trim interior with new seats and all panels completely recovered. Intercoms, car to car, PCI Elite setup. Fresh air pumpers, so if you want to put the helmets and you want to run the air. Also have brand new FUNCO billet A-arms, tie rod, spindles, trailing arms, axles, 300 MCVs, Heims bushings, uniballs, and this is something that's super important. It has a FUNCO title. It is not registered as a special construction vehicle. And he adds, this is the ultimate Dooner's car. And I concur. It has aged like a fine wine. Okay, so that actually wasn't wine. It was Coca-Cola. Wine's terrible. Coca-Cola's fantastic. Just saying. Okay. Moving on, I'll stop screwing around. Let's jump into this G52. So the current models, look at the lines on this, just absolutely beautiful. And a lot of people will ask, well, why does a FUNCO work so well? Why is it the ultimate Dooner's car? Here's one of the reasons, or a couple of the reasons I should say. Airbags, right? We're harkening back to the late 90s, early 2000s when they first started with the airbag suspension. What you'll see here is a King shock with the airbag built in, as well as an airbag in the back here with your King triple bypass in the rear. So you have that adjustability on that. that. Why is that important? Well, we'll jump into that in a little bit because I'm going to be able to show you. The other thing about this car, why it works so well, is look at how well it's balanced, right? Look at where you sit as a driver, where your feet end up. Right here by the front A-arms. So it's very well balanced with a front to rear ratio. You have your engine, your transmission coming down right here. And then the weight of it overall, it's very lightweight for the amount of horsepower that the car has. So between the airbag suspension and the adjustability, the wheelbase, the seating position, and the horsepower, I mean, these are just amazing cars. Okay, so let's look at some of the details. All right, so let's jump inside. We're going to start with these jet trim seats. Super comfortable, super supportive, right? Look at the stitching in it. Take note of that because it's going to match the paint job on the car once we get outside. I love the placement of the holes in the seats because those shoulder harnesses come down perfectly. They're not wide in the back and then, going down the front. Plus, we got the crotch strap built in, that anti-submarine belt. Always pushing safety, right? The lining on the side panels here on the inside. And check out the bracing. Boom, boom. So where you're sitting, if you happen to roll this car over, you've got that triangulation to keep you safe. All right, let's see next. And how about this? Functioning doors. So you can get in and out of the car easier. If you remember the earlier Big Fives, how the side rail came down to allow you to get in and out of the car. And as the evolution progressed, they started adding doors to that as well. So you have safety and comfort, right? And check out this beautiful dash setup, right? As we was talking about earlier was the dual screens. And this is a sequential transmission, right? So it's a back, forward, whenever it's not an H pattern shifter. So what ends up happening if you don't have this right here, the indicator to tell you what gear you're in, sometimes you get lost. So that's a super nice touch. Here's those buttons I was mentioning, mounted to the Momo steering wheel as well. And man, we've got an array of, what has it got? A horn button, lights, seats. What's that? A seat heater? You got seat heaters in that, TJ? I guess I should have asked you before we did this review. But here's your radio, your intercom. Look at the stitching on the dash. I mean, that is just beautiful. Another array of switches over here as well. Let's move on to the next. All right, so let's take a look at the rear 3/4 view. And the first thing that jumps out at me, force-fed Whipple supercharger feeding that V8, right? This also gives us a nice shot of that King Adam the Great aluminum body. I mean, this is all hand-formed, folks. Doors, look at how that blends in. Also, TJ opted out of the wing on the back. I'm not a fan of the wings. I really like that swoopy look where it just comes down. We've also got a built-in trunk in the back. And check out the paint job. When I was mentioning the interior earlier of the interior side panels and the seats, how that matches, right? Side to side, just little touches like that makes this, just a step up of everything else that you're going to see out in the dunes. Another thing about this car I forgot to mention on the interior, no windshield, right? TJ doesn't run a windshield in his cars. Neither do I. My personal reasons for that is once you put a windshield in it and you have a full body, you kind of lose a feeling for how fast you're going. I mean, you could be going 70, 80, 90, and you got that wind blowing out around you and you just don't feel it, right? With no windshield in it, it's hitting you. I don't know. No windshield, that's the way to go if you ask me, but that's just my opinion. Otherwise, moving on. All right, so let's take a look at some detail work on this paint job. Also, we've got the Boardmanville live cam pulled up right now. This is Sunday at time of recording, and there are some people out at Oldsmobile Hill right now. Maybe you'll see them as we're going through. But let's start on the photo on the left. So I do see a piano hinge right here, as well as a latch. So this is going to open up. I'm not sure if that's storage under there or not. We'll have to find out. The nose cap on this, I mean, just absolutely fantastic body. Again, look at the paint job tying into the seats and the interior side panels on that. Also, light bar across the top. Then we've also got a scoop up on the top. So, as you know, I was ranting about the windshield earlier. If you did decide to put a windshield in this car, it's already set up to blow that air pressure through that scoop right down in to break it up so it comes in and keeps your car cool. So it's already ready to rock and roll. We've got some of the detail work on the paint. Check out the F. The FUNCO's in there. But again, just absolutely beautiful paintwork just above and beyond. All right, so let's jump into the next photos. And I almost forgot to mention this as I was closing out those photos. Some guys know how to build them. Visibility is extremely important in a sand car, right? Because we're doing lefts, rights, going over razorbacks. You can't see through your feet when you're going over the dunes and whatnot. And you can't see up at the top of a hill in a full roofed car. So what did TJ have the crew over at King Adam the Great do? Leave this open. There's probably about a foot and a half gap from the A-pillar, that front bar right there, through here. So it's not exactly a sunroof. It's just open, right? And you have that A-pillar right here and that roof comes like this what do we have to do? Is anybody up there? Right? So having that gap of that foot and a half, the tubes right here, you can look straight up to the top of a hill and get going, right? I mean, it's just, for me, it's a requirement. It's also a huge safety point. So great job on the build on that. I just wanted to point that out because some people might see it and be like, well, why is that there? Okay, moving on. Airbag suspension, take 12. All right, let's jump into this airbag suspension and see how well I do as a FUNCO salesperson, right? So a lot of people ask, FUNCO, why do you run airbags? So at the end of the day, as I mentioned earlier on the military vehicle, they were adding equipment and people, so they needed to adjust those airbags in order to have a better ride quality out of that off-road vehicle for the military. How does that translate into the FUNCO? So we've got a two-seater here. If you've got one person in the car versus two people in the car, you're able to adjust that suspension. It is super important if this is a 4 or 5-seater. Imagine you have a bench seat in there and there's 3 across the back, and you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, right? We're going from 200 pounds to 1,000 pounds in the cab. You're able to adjust that suspension on the fly to give you a better ride so the car handles better. Conversely, if it's a holiday weekend, so you're deep down in the dunes and you're cruising around, you got the airbags pumped up and you and your buddies are Ricky racing around having a good old time. Then what happens? We roll out to Oldsmobile Hill and everybody's been crisscrossing, right? So we have all of the ruts and all of the, just the chop out there. Let that air out of the suspension and that car's gonna ride really smooth through the chop. So adjustability is key in a FUNCO and one of the reasons why they handle so well. And as I mentioned before, wheelbase, seating position, and the balance of the machine. So there's your lesson on airbags and why they are so bitchin' and why they work so well. Okay. Oh my gosh, I got through it. Hooray. Moving on. All right, let's take a look at the passenger side. Good shot of the scoop. I mean, look at the aluminum work across the back here. The structure for the shock towers right here. I was mentioning earlier the triangulation to keep you and your passenger safe. Also, fuel tank and radiator are hidden back here in this shroud. We can't see it. I actually couldn't find the fuel filler on this. I'm not sure exactly where it is. Skid plate. Look at how it goes up in the back. It doesn't just go straight out. You know why it goes up in the back? Because you're going to be doing wheelies in this car. Hells yes, you are. Next. All right, I guess that's all we've got for the photos on this one. So what did he say? 2014 FUNCO G52 completely remodeled, no expense spared. We've got a 440 cubic inch LS7 with a Whipple supercharger and an Albin's 5-speed transmission, all wrapped up in a FUNCO build, right? This is just a fantastic machine. You're gonna have a lot of fun. You're gonna be the envy of your friends. What's the saying? Chicks dig it, guys respect it. Yeah. You need to pick this one up. So let's go ahead and close this out. All right, crew, I guess that's all I got. Happy Valentine's Day to you. I love you guys. That's all I got. Thank you for watching. See you in the dunes.